What if Disney's cheerful Jungle Book was based on stories where Mowgli becomes a cold-blooded killer who destroys entire villages and dies alone, rejected by both humans and animals? Behind the singing bears and dancing monkeys lies Rudyard Kipling's 1894 original story, a harsh view on survival, colonialism, and the brutal law of nature. We're exploring how Disney transformed stories about political manipulation, calculated murder, and the psychological toll of living between two worlds into family-friendly entertainment that erased almost all of Kipling's moral complexity. This isn't just about comparing adaptations. It's about how Hollywood sanitizes literature that was never meant for children, turning lessons on power, violence, and belonging into simple lessons about friendship and following your heart. Disney's 1967 animated version presents The Jungle Book as a light-hearted adventure filled with memorable songs and lovable characters. Mowgli grows up happily with his wolf family until the threat of the man-eating tiger Shere Khan forces him to journey toward the human village for safety. Along the way, Mowgli meets the carefree bear Baloo, who teaches him the bare necessities of jungle life. The wise panther Bagheera serves as a protective father figure, guiding Mowgli toward civilization. Even dangerous encounters become musical numbers. The climax arrives when Mowgli faces Shere Khan, defeating the tiger by using fire, man's greatest weapon, before choosing to join the human village after falling in love with a girl his own age. The story ends with Mowgli walking into his new life, surrounded by friends who will miss him but understand his choice. Disney's version emphasizes themes of friendship, self-discovery, and finding where you belong. The jungle is portrayed as a magical place where different species can be friends. Conflicts resolve through cleverness rather than violence, and growing up means making choices about your identity and future. This approach turned Kipling's complex examination of civilization, wildness, and moral ambiguity into a straightforward coming-of-age story with clear heroes, villains, and happy endings. Rudyard Kipling's original Jungle Book stories, published in 1894, present a far darker and more complex world where survival depends on understanding and manipulating the brutal politics of both animal and human societies. Rather than a single continuous narrative, Kipling wrote separate stories that explore different aspects of Mowgli's development from foundling to outcast. In Mowgli's Brothers, the foundational story, Mowgli's adoption by the wolf pack isn't a heartwarming rescue. The wolves accept him only because he might prove useful, and his position remains precarious throughout his childhood. Shere Khan doesn't just threaten Mowgli. He actively works to turn the pack against the boy through manipulation and promises of easy hunting. Mowgli's relationship with fire becomes central to his identity, but not as a one-time weapon against Shere Khan. Instead, Kipling shows how the boy's ability to control fire makes him fundamentally different from both animals and humans. He exists in a liminal space between worlds, never fully belonging to either. The second story, Kaa's Hunting, reveals the moral complexity that Disney's version completely eliminated. When the Bandarlog monkeys kidnap Mowgli, it's not a light-hearted adventure but a deadly threat that requires a disturbing alliance to resolve. In Kipling's version, Kaa the Python isn't a bumbling villain, but a terrifying and ancient predator whose assistance comes at a terrible price. The snake agrees to help rescue Mowgli, but only because he enjoys the opportunity to kill and eat the monkeys who have offended him. The rescue sequence becomes a massacre as Kaa methodically hunts and devours the Bandarlog while Mowgli watches. This story establishes a pattern that runs throughout Kipling's work. Moral survival in a harsh world requires making alliances with dangerous forces and accepting that violence is often the most effective solution to problems. The final Mowgli story, Tiger, reveals the full extent of Kipling's moral vision and shows why Disney had to completely reimagine the character for family audiences. In this story, Mowgli orchestrates the tiger's death with calculated precision that borders on psychopathy. Mowgli uses his knowledge of both human and animal behavior to manipulate a buffalo herd into trampling Shere Khan to death. The killing isn't presented as heroic self-defense, but as the execution of a long-term enemy. Mowgli watches the tiger die with satisfaction, then skins the corpse to display as a trophy. More disturbing is what happens afterward. When Mowgli tries to join human society, the villagers reject him as unnatural and dangerous. They recognize something predatory in the boy that makes them uncomfortable. Similarly, his wolf family can no longer accept him because his human cunning and use of fire make him too different from them. The story ends with Mowgli alone, rejected by both worlds, realizing that his unique position has made him something neither human nor animal, but a hybrid creature capable of manipulating both societies for his own survival. The differences between Disney's and Kipling's characters reveal how dramatically the adaptation changed the story's moral landscape. Disney's Kaa is a comical villain whose hypnotic powers provide slapstick entertainment, while Kipling's Kaa is an ancient amoral predator. Assistance comes with the understanding that he could just as easily eat Mowgli as help him. Shere Khan undergoes perhaps the most significant transformation. Disney's tiger is certainly menacing, but he's ultimately a cowardly bully who can be defeated by a clever boy with fire. Kipling's Shere Khan is a calculating political manipulator who understands that direct confrontation isn't always the most effective approach. Baloo's character change reveals Disney's fundamental shift in tone. The animated bear is a carefree friend who teaches Mowgli that life should be enjoyed rather than endured. Kipling's Baloo is a stern teacher who prepares Mowgli for survival by teaching him the laws, languages, and protocols that might keep him alive in a hostile world. Most significantly, Disney's Mowgli is essentially a normal boy having adventures, while Kipling's Mowgli becomes something inhuman through his experiences. The original character's development follows a trajectory of increasing isolation and moral ambiguity that would be impossible to market as children's entertainment. Kipling's Jungle Book stories can't be separated from their colonial context. Written during the height of British imperial power in India, the stories reflect complex attitudes about civilization, savagery, and the psychological costs of living between different cultural worlds. Mowgli's position as someone who belongs fully to neither human nor animal society mirrors the experience of colonial subjects who were educated in European ways but never fully accepted as equals. The law of the jungle, despite its animal setting, functions as a commentary on imperial law and the ways that power structures maintain themselves through violence and the threat of violence. Disney's adaptation eliminated all these political dimensions, transforming a story about imperial power and cultural displacement into a universal tale about growing up and finding your place in the world. Disney's version succeeds as entertainment precisely because it eliminates the moral ambiguity that makes Kipling's stories so disturbing and psychologically complex. The animated film provides clear heroes and villains, simple moral lessons, and the assurance that good choices lead to happy endings. Kipling's original stories offer no such comfort. They suggest that survival in a harsh world requires moral flexibility, strategic violence, and the acceptance that some forms of power can only be maintained through fear. Mowgli's development from innocent child to isolated predator serves as a warning about what happens when someone becomes too adapted to a world where strength is the only currency that matters. The transformation from Kipling to Disney reflects broader changes in how children's entertainment approaches moral education, where 19th century literature often confronted young readers with harsh realities and complex ethical dilemmas. Modern family entertainment tends to offer simplified moral frameworks that emphasize individual choice and positive thinking. Contemporary readers might find Kipling's original vision more relevant than Disney's sanitized adaptation. In an era of increasing political polarization, environmental crisis, and social fragmentation, Mowgli's story of existing between worlds without fully belonging to any resonates with modern experiences of displacement and identity confusion. The original story's emphasis on the psychological costs of survival and the ways that violence shapes character development speaks to contemporary concerns about trauma, resilience, and the long-term effects of growing up in hostile environments. By transforming Kipling's examination of power, violence, and belonging into a story about friendship and self-discovery, Disney created a beloved classic that has entertained generations of children. But this transformation came at the cost of eliminating almost everything that made the original stories psychologically complex and morally challenging. The result is a version of the Jungle Book that teaches children that the world is fundamentally safe, that good intentions lead to positive outcomes, and that finding where you belong is simply a matter of following your heart. These are comforting messages, but they bear little resemblance to the harsh realities that Kipling's Mowgli faces.